All right, we'll give it a shot. Hey everyone, my name is Mark Taylor, and today we are talking about The Sum of All Fears by Tom Clancy. It's crazy thinking that in 2021, it's now been 30 years since Tom Clancy published this, all the way back in 1991. I believe this is the fifth book in the Jack Ryan series by Tom Clancy. So at this point, he's established in his career and people are buying his books and he is really perfecting his craft. Now, this is only the second book that I've read of Tom Clancy's. I know. I'm not that big into the whole war and political thriller genre. So this is my stepping into that. My first book of Tom Clancy's was Rainbow Six, which came much later in his career. It follows Ding and John Clark as they create the Rainbow anti-terrorism group. And I have to say, I did not like that book. It was something like 800 pages and it should have been about 400 pages. It had some good action in it, but entirely too long, and the ending was pretty ridiculous. So that was my first taste of Tom Clancy, and I was not a fan, but I understood that a lot of people, his early stuff is when, oh, that's his best, which makes a lot of sense. So I said, okay, I definitely am going to give those a shot. I end up with like the fifth book, so I'm reading The Sum of All Fears. I thought it was fantastic. It was an unbelievable book. Again, way too long. I think this is like 900 pages. The full version is like 900 pages. And again, I think you could have probably cut a couple hundred pages and still had the exact same story and all the tension in it. So it follows Jack Ryan, who is now high up in the CIA. I don't think he's the director of the CIA at this point, but he is very high up as an official in the government, in the intelligence field. In the 70s, now keep in mind this was written in 1991, so in the 70s there was a conflict between the Israeli forces and the Syrian forces, and a nuclear bomb that goes undetonated is lost in the Syrian desert. And it is found by someone who, that there are all these peace movements to have peace in the area between the major power forces of the time and the religions in the world. And it's created by Jack Ryan. He's the moving force behind this. So these major world powers and religions sign this peace treaty. So there's a Middle Eastern man who's not happy about what his government's doing, about what the countries are doing, the religions are doing. And so he and some other, I think, East German terrorists, they team up to try to bait the Soviet Union and America into a global war, a nuclear war at this point. And what I love about this book is that so often in stories, the villain's main plan or the catastrophic event, it never happens. I mean, that's the whole point, is that the hero is able to stop the villain and they're able to stop the tragedy from ever taking place. And that is the finale, and that is the climax of the book. That doesn't happen in this book. And I'm going to say spoiler alert, but it's been 30 years, people. I don't think we have to put the spoiler on there at this point. Go read the book, enjoy the book. But the nuclear device that they rig up is actually detonated in the US at a football game in Denver, Colorado. And that's kind of actually the starting point of the final act. So that's actually what leads to the tension between the Soviet Union and the US about who detonated this. And so you've got two world powers and military powers on the brink of all-out nuclear war. And it's insane. I know my heart was pounding while I was reading this. And there are multiple times where I'm thinking, no, this is a misunderstanding. Don't let this cloud your judgment. Like, make a good decision, because the whole world is on the brink. And the crazy thing is, because of the technology back then, and I don't know about all the details of how all the NORAD works or how NATO does things, and I've seen people go after Tom Clancy for this. I'm going to assume that Tom Clancy had some high up advisors in the military and government places because he's not Googling this in 1991. He's not going to Wikipedia, so he's figuring this out some way. But there's a lot of people that blast him for the procedures and how the details are handled. I don't know anything about that stuff. I have no clue about that stuff. So I'm going to just say what was in the book, and it was super tense because the Soviet Union and the US are trying to communicate about something they're in the dark about and trying to stop from going to war with each other, but also protecting their people in case there is a war. But they're doing it through essentially a telegraph method. So imagine the most tense situation in your life that's ever happened, and whether it's with a loved one, a spouse, a child, your parents, and you have to text your side of the story while hearing their side of the story, and you don't really trust them, but you're trying to convey that you're telling the truth, and you're doing it through text. That's how they're trying to stop a nuclear war, and it gets crazy. It is a very tense ending of a book. Really makes you just think about how scary the idea of a nuclear war is, and really hoping that we have strong, capable, stable people and the right procedures in place to make nuclear war as difficult as possible. It was just it's a heck of a book. Again, a lot of people love Clancy because of all of his details and the specifications and the military jargon and just description out the ears. That's not my favorite thing. For some people, that's why they read Clancy. I think there's way too much of that. The half to 2/3 mark, I think, really gets bogged down, and just lots and lots of details and kind of character story and just personal life stuff. But the beginning and the end are just fantastic. They're unbelievable, and you can see this is Clancy at his best. So give it a shot. If you love military thrillers, you'll love this. If you love political thrillers, you'll absolutely love it. If you just like good drama and suspense and tension, you'll love it. So check it out. It's been 30 years now since this came out, and it's still just as exciting and just as relevant today. As always, keep reading. You are more loved and valued than you can possibly imagine.